Hi there, and welcome back to the Render podcast. We decided to give it a second go and see what happens. Hopefully, we'll be a little more articulate this time. I think we were pretty good last time, but there was some weirdness. We're not going to be more articulate. We'll just perpetually be awkward. Yeah. So, anyways, my name's Emily.
I'm Jessie.
And this week, I guess we'll mention last week. Not last week. Keep getting confused. There's a big span of time that passed between these. But on our first one, our little pilot one, we were talking about the SoBe Art Awards that were on display at the National Gallery, and we were just kind of critiquing them and giving our opinions and our feedback. And it was lots of fun. So this podcast episode.
This specific time we are recording.
That is much later than the first time we did it. We are actually going to give some tips on how to survive grad school. We're both finishing up our masters, so we feel like we're experts now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not really. The reason it's taking so long is because our lives are falling apart. That was really dramatic, but
I mean, like not far off, but maybe dramatized for sure.
It's dramatized for effect. It's for the listener's pleasure. So we're going to start out with this article from this website called Psych Central that give you 12 tips for surviving and thriving grad school. We're just going to go through them, and we're going to talk about them, whether they're good, whether we think they're just so wrong, and whether Psych Central needs to get it together. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right.
Do you want to start out, Jessie?
Okay, so number 1 they have as know how you work, that's legit. That's legit. The first step to learning how to write a paper is like how the frig you think and how you're going to process everything. And I know I'm slowly learning more and more about how I don't work. Which is helpful as well, but like I'm sure a lot of people experience procrastination, maybe not to the same level as me, but I know that I'm a procrastinator, so I try and give myself like harder deadlines and everything, just because like I know I won't like work on suggestion. I need the threat, so I think that's helpful. What about you?
That's true. I mean I work really well under pressure. I try my best not to procrastinate, and I have gotten a lot better in the last 2 years. But it's also because I have this inability to say no to things like extracurriculars, so I overload myself with so much work, which I'm sure we will talk about at some point here. This can't be a tip that isn't in here. But knowing how you work is really important. I'm certainly learning about my own writing style a lot as I'm working through my major research project, so it's been a challenge because I'm someone who can sit down and spend like 6 hours writing like 5 pages or something like that and then go about my business. But I'm not someone who can sit down and write small bits every day, which sitting down and writing small bits every day is actually a more effective way of writing.
Yeah, but I don't know anybody who does it.
It's difficult.
There's like 2 people I know in the world.
Someone in our cohort actually did that when she was finishing up her project. It worked really well for her. I'm trying to get into that habit myself. But I also find the reason I like writing long periods is because I'm a writer who likes things to come out organically. So it's really hard for me to structure and plan an outline for my papers and my research. I can have a general idea and it works around in my head, but in the end I rearrange things a lot. And so it really has to come out organically and then be formed as I go. Which I think is part of the reason that's limiting it.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, I mean, there's one thing to work a little bit every day, but you can't discount, like, just sitting, chilling. You process a lot of information when you don't actually realize it. Like, I give myself a lot of time to process information before I write, which may seem like nothing, but I've found, in fact, it is helpful. Something, yes. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, number 2 is read smarter, not harder. And basically what it's saying is that you need to organize your writing. This reading? Idea of, your reading. It's this idea of reading with purpose instead of just trying to cover as much ground as possible. which I think there's some value in that. But I also think that when you're doing your graduate seminars and course load, you're obviously put in positions where you may have to read 70 to 100 pages in a week before the next seminar on the topic. And maybe you have a couple seminars. Maybe you're also trying to do some other work at that time. So it's better to read smarter if you can, but it's definitely a learned skill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think, like, if you skim enough, eventually you learn to pick out key points and everything. Especially if you're reading for, like, your own research, you know what, in general, you're looking for. I mean, like, it's kind of an obvious one, right? Kind of obvious.
I guess, yeah. It feels obvious in a lot of ways.
It's not wrong. We'll go with that.
That's true.
So we'll just move on, I guess. All right, so focus less on grades and more on learning. That is, I don't know about it. Because, yes, ideally, you came to learn, and that's beautiful. We should all learn. But when grades make the money, I don't know.
When grades make the money. Well, it's also one of the problems with if you focus less on grades and more on learning is the fact that it's a very different system when you get into graduate school. If you get a B, for example, it's not that big of a deal when you're in your undergrad. Okay, it's 1B, it's that kind of thing. But when you get a B and sometimes you might get a B consistently in certain areas grad school,
it's
then
terrifying.
There's also this like questioning of whether you should be there because of how the grading system works. Personally, and they're kind of talking about this in as well, but I think maybe the focus that they're trying to place here on learning is really being engaged, right? Putting yourself in the position where you're not striving necessarily to get that A. You're striving to learn as much as possible and be critical about it as much as possible. And
it's just like courses, a lot of, like, I found in quite a few of the courses I've taken, they've emphasized taking chances and, like, possibly failing, and that being as valid as doing something you know you're going to be good at. But there are a lot of, like, of things that still require you to do the standard and, like, not take any chances. And when you don't take chances, you're not learning anything. Like, failure is a huge part of learning, and so it's just, I don't know, this one focus less on grades, I don't know, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, two-edged sword.
Well, because grades are obviously important in that kind of in the context of you need to have successful grades, especially if you're, for example, you're a master's student and you're looking forward into your PhD. Grades are still very important.
Supremely important.
They're so important, and it's even more competitive than it was even getting into your master's, and you have to be so specific. That said, I mean, I've actually done a lot better. I do really well on grades where I do take a chance, and I put myself in these positions where it's maybe a little uncomfortable, or it's something that I just don't really know about, but I'm really interested in. Because when you take those chances on something you're really interested in, but you don't know a lot about, then you give yourself the opportunity to invest yourself in learning. And I think for me, in my experience, that's translated over into actually very strong grades.
Yeah, it's just whether or not certain people will recognize that you're taking chances or going, or even if they'll recognize anything outside of sort of the canon that they've created in their courses. It's a mixed bag.
That's true. I think for the most part, we've been very fortunate with the support that we receive.
Yeah.
And so we're encouraged to take chances, which I think is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. So we move on?
Yeah. So number 4 is pick opportunities wisely. This is an excellent suggestion, in my opinion, just because it's one of those things where you're also at this point where, one, a lot of these things come up and there are always things going on. There are always different committees you can be involved with. Like I said, I tend to say yes to a lot of things. I tend to take on a lot of responsibility. I do know my own limits of that, but it does cause a lot of extra stress. So this is something I'm still learning. But in terms of picking opportunities wisely, if we think about outside of grad school, I mean, at some point in your in life, you have to think about, you're now at a level in your education and in your, like, you're now considered this kind of junior scholar, junior researcher, And so you have to also be picky at some point and say, hey, I don't need to go and do this one thing that is going to provide me no future benefit. So it just depends, I think, from there.
Well, you have to recognize where one opportunity is one thing, but like, will an opportunity lead to another opportunity? That's something that you're going to have to learn to weigh.
Absolutely. And sometimes you think it's going to lead to an opportunity and you spend a lot of time and a lot of investment, and then it leads nowhere. This is the nature of things, and it really sucks and it's sad. But just keep that in mind as well. So pick your opportunities wisely, but also don't close doors on yourself. I mean, things could happen even when you don't expect them to.
Leave a window open.
Exactly. Just like really consider it, right? And think that you can always take a chance, and if it's not working, there are opportunities to be like, okay, no, I need to step back from that.
Yeah. Okay, so number 5, consult others. No, really. Should do that, probably. I mean, that's kind of obvious. That's what makes, like, small programs so important, is that you already have, like, a built-in resource with the other students. And, like, obviously professors and everything. And then even outside, if you just branch out, like, in the art community, you can reach out to artists and everything. So I think it's important. Like, it helps ground yourself, because I know you can get kind of hyped up with your own thoughts, but, like, communicating them to another human being really helps, like, solidify actually what you're thinking about, and, like, they might give you another perspective or another opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, and I also think one of the things with consulting with others, and you kind of mentioned this in terms of, you know, getting a different perspective, but one of the biggest risks I think you find, especially you find departmentally even, is at a university, is this idea of your ideas all being sucked into this vacuum. And so if they get sucked into a vacuum, then they're not going to expand. There are going to be limitations on them. So it's really important to, consult with your cohort with people who look at different aspects, or consult with your professors. Maybe they have something else. But also consult with other departments and interdisciplinary as well. If you could make friends with other graduate students from different departments, then it's kind of gold, right? Mm-hmm. It's so valuable. Like, I really I've recently got to know some people that are in different departments, and it's been really, really helpful. And I think I've just grown so much from that experience.
Yeah. It's just, you gotta make friends and you gotta keep them. That's pretty much it.
Friends and keep them. I guess we can, ready to move on?
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Manage your time well.
I have nothing to say about that.
I mean, I feel like this is pretty obvious. You want to manage your time well if you're going to be successful. This is not just a grad school thing. This is just a fundamental life success thing in the type of society and world we live in. Time management is valued and appreciated and everything like that. If you're someone like me who's really type A, agendas are really helpful. I have a paper agenda. I use agenda books. I don't use it. I don't use technology for those. I at one point did, but if you have a problem with syncing, then you have to start worrying about different platforms and different uses of technology, and then it's just easier to revert to a paper one for me and then carry it around.
Occasionally I'll make a to-do list, and then I think just, like, making the list makes me feel better, but then I never refer to it ever again. But I'm certainly not type A. I'm the opposite of type A. So I'm, like, I don't thrive in disorganization. I just am disorganized. So, I don't know. I can't manage my time. Like I said, I spend a lot of time processing information and not actually writing. But it's all good. It's all good.
Despite my apparent great organization and time management, though, everything comes down to the last minute. It's just everything is done in, like, this, like, intensive time right at the end. And I sit there and I think to myself, is this my life now? And I feel like it is. It's just my life.
No, I can relate to that. Okay, so let's move on to number 7. Don't see grad school as the end of the road. I don't know. This is kind of depressing for me right now, because considering we're done in, like, what, 3 months?
3 months.
I don't know like, it feels like an end of the road right now because there's nothing lined up at the end other than nothing at all. Nothing at all. But
the anxiety of it all.
Oh my god.
Well, and that's the thing, like, even if you have something planned out, it doesn't always mean it's going to work out as well. Certainly a learning curve that I've had over the last year. It's been a huge learning curve about when things aren't going how they're supposed to go, where you go from there. I think there is something to be said for being able to thrive in the unknown, or even just being able to look at it in a positivity and looking at it as almost like an opening of opportunity. Grad school is, of course, not the end of the road. I mean,
no. Well, there's life after grad school. I'm sure I haven't encountered it yet.
Because you're still in grad school.
Because I'm still in grad school. I imagine in 3 months.
3 months, we'll see.
3 months, we'll see, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, like, there's going to be stuff after. We just don't know what it is or how useful grad school will be in it. Or even if we're, like, who knows, maybe I'll be a neurosurgeon or something. That might be...
You're going to be a neurosurgeon with your master's in art history.
You gotta start somewhere.
Well, I guess, you have to go back to school, and you'll just be in grad school forever.
God, I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to think about it.
Well, I guess one of the things, too, is with this is that it's obviously not the end of the road. It is just the beginning, but...
So tacky. It's like so cheesy. It's just the beginning.
It's true. It is just the beginning, but it's also one of those moments where you have to, like, have confidence in yourself, and it's super hard, and the things that we have heard and the people we've talked to about what's going to happen afterwards, especially with an advanced degree in a specialized field that often sometimes gets overlooked in this weird way, and where funding feels like it's constantly being cut from museums and that kind of thing. You wonder where your possibilities are, and it's really scary, and it's really kind of upsetting, but you have to believe, like, even if it's tough, it's gonna get you somewhere, right? Yeah. I mean, there are invaluable skills you've learned, you've made connections. Like, you really have to, if you've gone into grad school and you've put as much into it as you can, and you've gotten as much out of it as you can, then you have to believe that at some point it's gonna work out, I guess.
Yeah. We won't know. The brilliant thing about life is that we live it in, like, a very linear way, so you're not gonna know if it doesn't work out. You won't know. You won't know any of the other possibilities, so...
That's true.
That's my
you're
positive
getting there.
thought.
It's like the cat in the box.
Yeah.
Just to bring us to a little bit of a morbid thing.
Let's not think about it anymore.
Okay.
Hopefully the other tips aren't as, like...
Those ones just,
depressing.
Like, brought the age of anxiety on us.
Yes.
Okay, so number 8... keep a file of everything that interests you, and this is in connection with mastering the master's thesis and dissertation. They have some little subheadings that we didn't tell you about. We wanted to withhold that information.
I didn't see them before.
So for this one, keep a file of it. I mean, I suppose I see some value in this, but I also think it's going to be chaotic.
Yeah.
I don't think this is necessary. I think you need to keep a file of everything that you're going to find useful. But everything that maybe when you have just started out, which I think that's what they're kind of implying is when you first start out, it's just like kind of make a collection of things that interest you and then find your topic from there. But this suggestion actually, I think, only gets you so far.
Well, you have to organize it, and then if you're organizing it, you have to think about it more, and you have to have a direction to organize it in. Yeah. And so, I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, and I also think your topic's gonna come to you. Like, it's just gonna arrive, and you're gonna see it, and you're gonna be like, huh. And it might not even be something that you're collecting information on or you've ever thought about before in that way. And then there it is. I mean, that's probably my experience, where it was just like sitting down and being like, okay, well, what am I interested in? What do I want to do? And then I thought I found something, and then I kind of did. And then it's become like one of the like most rewarding experiences. And that sounds like super like feely and happy, but it's actually been like a really great experience. I think it's like uncommonly great. Like I don't know if everyone's had that same experience of just feeling like everything's working out and you found a purpose and you found things
No.
that are the gap and stuff like that. It's so, I mean, and that's, but it's something that I definitely would have never thought that I would have talked about and decided to write about. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if you want to do it, otherwise.
Yeah, it just depends on if you think that's going to be helpful for you. I know that I have piles of papers around and piles of books around, and those are just the helpful ones. I have other piles of stuff that's just nonsense. I don't know what to do with it.
Okay. All right. So we want to move on.
Yeah.
Like number 9 doesn't really apply to us. Be thoughtful when choosing your committee members. I don't think many people in the humanities would have a committee.
Well, you do if you are writing a thesis, you would have a committee, because you would have a thesis supervisor.
And then like the people.
And then you would have to choose a committee that you would basically go and defend your thesis to. So this is great advice, but I would say you should be thoughtful when choosing your advisors. Actually,
the advisors are going to be there the whole process. The committee's
for sure.
At the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be thoughtful when choosing committee members, because obviously you don't want to pick someone who's just going to completely trash everything you do. But your supervisor, be thoughtful about who you're picking if you have that opportunity. But also, I would say this works really well be thoughtful about who you would like to mentor you as well, because maybe there are some upper year PhD students who would be great at that. Maybe there are some professionals in the field. So think about like where you want to go, what you want to do, and if there are any people. Just
like comes back to like consult others.
Yeah, that's true. I think so. Okay. So it's kind of we're saying to this one.
Right. Number 10. Write it your way. Okay. So yeah, I mean like that seems pretty obvious. If you don't write something the way you feel comfortable writing it, then it's not going to get written.
For sure, but I also think this one just kind of comes down to the whole like know how you work aspect.
It's the same thing.
So it's if you learn how you work and then do that the way you need to do that. So
yeah,
which we kind of talked about already.
Right.
So
10.
Number 11.
The heading is having a life outside of graduate school.
This is finally the one that we actually wanted to get
to.
So 11, have a life outside of school.
What's that?
Right?
What is a life? What is a life? I don't know.
What is a life?
I spend a lot of time playing video games.
What do you mean grad school is not? That is how I spend my time.
Yeah.
Playing video games.
We should get the same games.
We do have some of the same games, I think.
No, I don't. Anyway. While it might be difficult to have a full life outside of school, I'm quoting by the way, time away from school is key to your well-being. It is. That's some solid advice. Go treat yourself. Go get some ice cream or gelato or something. Sit down in a park. Meet up with your friend you haven't seen in a couple years. It's good for your soul. Grad school isn't as good for your soul as some ice cream is. That's all I'm saying.
Some experiences in grad school, though, are really good for your soul.
I mean, there's really good, but then ice cream in the park is that's...
Until you find out you're lactose intolerant and dealing with a high level of stress.
That's why I said gelato.
It still has lactose in it.
Does it really?
It's dairy. Of course it
Gelato?
does.
I thought it was just more like frozen juice.
No, there are some gelatos that are a little more like sorbet.
Okay.
What's
the difference between gelato and sorbet?
Well, it's it's the way it's made. I mean, gelato is made a particular way with really high speeds and compression, so it cuts down on air, and so that's what makes it lighter and fluffier. The fact that I've researched this and I know the answer to this in a weird way.
It's a little weird.
So
have some sorbet in the park. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe. Actually, yeah, have a life outside of grad school, out of school is really important.
Pets and puppies.
Kittens. Well, it's also one of those things too where know your limitations as well, because while you do want to have a life outside of school, you need to make time for yourself, for friends, do things that are relaxing, that de-stress you. Those are really important. But I would also say know your limits. Don't plan to socialize 3 nights a week every week or something like that.
Well, you can't, that's the thing. You can't schedule life.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But I mean, I would say, like, just be considerate and thoughtful, though, as well, of what you're taking on when you do choose socialization. Like, I mean, not just in general, like, only, I mean, you know, for example, like, oh, you have, like, this person's asking you to go out this evening, but you have, like, a bunch of stuff, and you have a bunch of stuff to do, but then it's, like, your mother's birthday on the weekend, so you know you're going to be spending a lot of time with her. Maybe say no and offer and see if they want to go out, like, in, like, the next week or a couple weeks when then you don't put yourself in that position where you're super stressed out afterwards.
No, you're going to be stressed out either way. To go out and have some fun. You're going to be stressed.
In moderation, man.
No.
In
don't
moderation.
do anything in moderation. That leads to regrets. Do everything
I would disagree
way
with that,
too
but...
hard and then feel it out later. That's how you learn your limits. If you do something too hard. That's what I've found. That's how I come to conclusions.
Well, I guess this is also for grad school, too. So you would, I don't know, I would take the assumption that somebody that's in grad school has already gone through their undergrad and probably know a lot of their limits of, like, how much socializing for schoolwork they can do.
I didn't have much of a life in undergrad.
Okay.
I don't know if I have much of a life now. Well, let's move on to number 12.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So...
Go ahead.
All right. Keep your family in the loop. I guess, you know, it's nice that they know what you're doing, that you're not, like, banging your head against a wall. Yeah. They don't really know what you're talking about most of the time, though.
You kind of move to this point where it's like, oh, that's really nice. And they certainly care and they're really happy that you're feeling fulfilled. But you start, like, talking like these really, like, using these jargon terms and talking about these different aspects. I mean... It's kind of hard for anyone outside of that specialization.
Yeah. Well, say
really
like,
deal with it,
start
right?
quoting Foucault and just watch their faces go blank.
Or even better, start quoting Derrida, who nobody in the existence of anyone knows what they're talking about.
No.
Oh, Derrida. Or, an even better one, Adorno. Theodore Adorno.
I haven't read it.
Oh, he's a special man.
So yeah, it's just nice to have like that.
Yeah.
That shoulder that doesn't know anything about it, but you can still, like, cry on it and like, maybe get some free food and have them do some of your laundry once in a while.
Just keep them up to date. You know, just, it's nice also that they know that you're doing well, and they're not worrying about you, because parents generally worry those kinds of things. Yeah, it's also, like, if you have, like, successful moments, really, really, like, cool, successful moments, it's nice to have that to share it with them, right? It's like celebrating success.
No, I guess we can just end that with, like, call your mom, she misses you.
She told me so the other day. Yeah, but I guess, like...
That's the list.
That's the end of the list. Do you have anything to add?
I don't know. I'm kind of struggling right now myself, so if anybody has any tips for me, I actually listen to it. Oh, here's a tip. Actually consider what other people say. Like, I don't know, consider thoughts and ideas of other people if they take the time to suggest them to you. Because that's something I'm learning is important to do. Because a lot of time I'll ask for help and then people will help me and then I'll be like, I'm going to do it my way anyway. And then I end up screwing up. So, there's a lesson. There's a tip. Consult others and follow through. That would have been good. I
just shove my, like, request for help on people. I don't even ask if they will do it. I just say, like, I need you to do this. So that's kind of a little selfish of me, I'm not going to lie. I'm aware of it. But actually what I would say is, and this is kind of like, when it comes to consult others, it's kind of in that, but I think it's different, is like, establish a support system, right? Really get to know the people in your cohort, or, you know, have those, like, couple friends that are just really great for talking about these things, and really supportive. And then I would say support system is really important.
Yeah.
And, like, if you're having a sucky day, go up to them and be like, I'm having the worst fucking day.
You swore. Are we allowed to swear on this?
I don't see why we can't. We're adults. Anyways, they'll be sparing. But my apologies for my language. But you have to, I guess there's something in being, like, in having that support system and having people who are going through the same thing that that you can be vulnerable with as well, because they're really the people that understand what you're going through the most, right? And so you have that connection as well. Support systems are so important.
Yes.
I can't even stress that enough. Yeah. This is why we're doing a podcast, apparently.
Yeah. Well,
it makes us feel good.
It's been like a half hour, too. I'm like, if anybody's still listening, dang.
Dang, yo! I don't think there's anything else, though.
I don't know. I haven't thought of it.
If you are still listening and you have some tips that this wonderful Psych Central article or we did not mention, then you can definitely tell us.
I would love that.
We love hearing advice.
And I might take it, too. I might take it.
Might take it. So, I think that's
it.
That's it for us. One of the things I did want to mention, we do have a website for the journal. Just in case for some reason you see this on YouTube or on Facebook or something and you don't know there. But we have a journal. We have a blog website that's hosted on Carleton. So it's carleton.ca/art-history/graduate-studies/render.
Okay,
so
we'll probably just link that.
I'm just gonna link it in the
description. Link that in what do they call it? The doobly-doo? Isn't that what most people?
The doobly-doo. I've never heard of that.
Maybe I watched some.
I'm just gonna put it in the description part, but we have a lot of cool stuff. We have some like reviews, and we have like an interview, and we have a lot of really interesting stuff we've been working. That's why we've done less podcasting too, because there's been a lot of effort put into like making sure we have consistent blogs going on. And we are also going to be doing a call for our journal soon.
Okay.
And that's like it. So,
okay.
Thank you for listening if you listened.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.